Hey, just want to do a quick video on what Breitbart and Coulter and Steve Bannon all get wrong. They get a lot right, and they're very smart. And whenever you disagree with some of these people, you should rethink your position because they're very intelligent. But one thing they get wrong is definitely immigration. A centrally planned immigration system isn't going to work anything better than a centrally planned healthcare system, which everyone knows is terrible. Um, the same tool that they're going to create to deport, to let some people in, get some people out, is going to be used by other people down the line in the exact opposite way they're planning to use it today. So they're afraid that they're just the Democrats are just importing a bunch of Democratic voters, people who are going to become dependent on welfare. Yeah, that's going to be the goal in the future if you create this system of government where you specifically get to pick immigrants. That's going to be the future eventually, because eventually the Democrats are going to get back into power and they're going to change the rules to benefit them. And again, it's just like the simple logic of it. No one's ever explained it to me. I've listened to interviews and read books on it by these people, and none of them explain it well. Like, why is centrally planned immigration better than centrally planned healthcare? If you think the government is so good at planning things, like, then why not have centrally planned healthcare or food or cars or something like that? Why don't we have government planned everything? Immigration's just too big of a issue, too big of the economy. It's too complex for government to properly vet, to carry things out. And there's that cognitive dissonance there that none of these people ever get past. But additionally, the other logical part of it says, well, look, like, the immigrants do these bad things. They take our welfare. They're a net drain on the economy, stuff like that. But this is really justifying bad government policies with more bad government policies. Yeah, it's not good that people come over here and go on welfare. Okay, so change the laws on welfare, make welfare harder to get, make it more difficult for everyone to get. It doesn't matter if they're, if it's such a simple idea. Look, yes, we have bad government policies. And Ann Coulter will say the same thing about healthcare. She'll say, well, we can't legalize, she says about drugs, about healthcare, about everything. She says, well, we can't legalize drugs because then, people are just gonna, sit on their couch, collect welfare, they're gonna use our healthcare system up. They're not gonna go get jobs, stuff like that. And it's like, well, yeah, like, maybe that'll happen. Like, maybe if we legalize drugs, people will just sit on their couch and live on welfare. But, that's a problem with the welfare system. And you're going to throw, thousands, if not, millions of people over the course of our lifetime in jail because of bad welfare laws. Like, no, just change the welfare laws. If welfare laws need to be vetted for drug testing, then put that in. If we need to cut welfare across the board, make that happen. But the answer is less government control, not more. More government control is always going to lead to bad outcomes because government failure is just too ubiquitous. There's just too much of it. There's too many factions trying to gain control of the system. And Ann Coulter wants to the idea that Republicans are against marijuana is a huge headwind that the GOP has to fight against. And they're doing fine politically, but had they just dropped this issue, being against drugs, they would have been, it's been used as a cudgel against the Republican Party for so long. It would have been much easier for a much longer period of time. The goal is to get the economy working, get the government out of these complex sectors of human life, and asking people to self-deport is just really unrealistic. I was just listening to the Bannon 60-minute interview that just happened yesterday, which is why I'm making this video. It's unrealistic. You're gonna let green cards expire and you'll let work permits expire, and then you're gonna have people self-deport. It's not gonna happen. People already own homes. They already do this. They already do that. They're gonna find ways around it. You think people are just gonna walk away from everything they've built for their whole lives? They came here at 8, and they're just gonna walk back to Mexico, a language they don't speak, people they don't know, a place they've never been. It's just not going to happen. You're just going to have a huge illegal population, and the real sad thing is, again, this backfires. So, people are going to say the Republicans are super cruel, They don't care about other people. They're gonna be painted as racist and evil, and again, continue losing elections, of course. That one's easy, but and Bannon is really concerned about upcoming midterm elections, 2018. I mean, yeah, I mean maybe, right? Like, there's not really a lot of accomplishments, but additionally, you know, one of the problems you get with these huge black market of people, right? These people who are working, people are existing, owning property, renting property, under the table, is that crime goes unpunished. People have to resort to small crimes just to get by. Like identity theft and stuff. And once you do these small crimes, it's it's one of those things, like once you're already on the hook for jail for 10 years for doing these small crimes, right? Like what's another 10 years? What's another 20 years, right? It's much easier for people to continue doing, to move on to bigger crimes. Not only that, the people who do bigger crimes are less likely to be reported by their communities, just because no one wants to deal with police. If you're illegal and you're dealing with the police, you don't want them to ask you for your ID and say, okay, well, like, can we get your phone number and ID just so we can put your testimony down in court? No one's going to do that. So if there are murderers and rapists among the millions of people who are here illegally, they're going to have a lot of cover from their communities, because you just made everyone illegal. Anyways, it's a losing battle. Mike Cernovich said it nicely. Like, look, like, you're not gonna, in the public's eye, DACA, the dreamers are just kids, right? The average age is 25, but dreamers are just kids, and you're not gonna deport them. It's gonna be like fucking Elliot Gonzalez every day for 40 years. If that's what you try and do. If you try and just like bust into people's home and deport them, and you say self-deport, but that's not gonna happen. And Europe really struggles with this too. A massive amount of illegal immigrants. They're actually very bad at integrating immigrants. But America's super good at integrating immigrants. So it's just something to rethink. I've never heard a good rebuttal about it. It's just one of the sad things that that this is what they've gotten obsessed about. Yes, like immigration. It's hard because immigrants may or may not be a net drag on the economy. I suspect that from everything I've read, books and books and books and about it, that's definitely a net positive, illegal immigration. But let's say it's a net negative because of services consumed. In that case, it's just to change what government services are offered or how they're offered. And Coulter talks about schools, right? Like, that's one of our things. Like, well, what about public schools? Well, if you're renting property or if you own property, you're paying property taxes. Illegal immigrants still pay that stuff because the lot gets charged. And so if they're paying taxes into the system, A, why shouldn't they get the benefits? But B, public schooling has always and forever been an institutional kind of forced way that you force people to become more American. It was originally instituted against Catholics to make Catholics more American, because we didn't want those Catholics being so different from Protestant America. But since then, it's been used, to Americanize, the Chinese, to integrate the Chinese, the Japanese, black people when they were, go from being slaves to being free. Public school is a big part of. I don't want to say integration, because they're already kind of integrated. They're already just very Southern culturally at that time. But even integrating the South and the North, that was a huge part of after the Civil War. A huge number of Northern teachers came down and really pushed to change how the South acted. And this is just the next wave of it. And it happened with the Germans when they came by earlier in in the last century. Everyone was speaking German, and you institute public schools to force them to speak English. Anyways, I think this is really, if there's one question that needs to be answered, it's if the government's so good at centrally planning immigration, why shouldn't it be good at the EPA, the FDA, healthcare, anything else? And Coulter's always ranting and raving about her healthcare, and I agree. It's more than my mortgage. It's ridiculous how much healthcare costs, but I don't think the government's good at providing healthcare. I don't think it's good at providing, visas or immigration. Open borders is definitely the way to go. And, if you don't agree, I'd like to hear an argument. Anyways, bye.